Hi there, I'm Pollymacho, and it's great to see you. I've been silent from this channel for quite a bit, trying to decide if I actually wanted to give YouTube an honest attempt, or just entertain the fantasy of owning a perfect channel. When a spark of inspiration appeared, I would attempt to write a script for it, then quickly realize it wasn't coming together the way I planned it, and would ultimately scrap it. Rinse and repeat this cycle for about 3 years. At this current point, I've decided I'm gonna try again, and plan on sticking to it. For those of you currently subscribed, thank you very much. I hope to make something that's worth your time. Now, the reason I bring this up isn't to make excuses for myself, but rather to verbally express an observation after taking a step back from YouTube. I realized this after playing a game that really struck a chord with me. We've all had things appear at that right time in our lives where we can really appreciate them. Something that after witnessing or partaking in, we learn something new about ourselves and we carry that with us on our journeys through life. Recently, a game that did this for me was Firewatch. For those of you who don't know, Firewatch is a first-person adventure game released in 2016. In it, you play as Henry, a recently hired fire lookout for a park in Wyoming. He takes the job after a series of difficult events in his relationship. Throughout the game, your only human connection is a woman over the radio named Delilah, your boss. The game starts out seeming like everything is going to be okay before spiraling into a suspenseful and paranoia-filled mystery. What's immediately striking about Firewatch is its visual presentation. The game's look was inspired by a graphic designer on the team named Ollie Moss, whose iconic art style has been utilized in striking and fantastic movie posters. This style takes advantage of every area of space to convey the core idea behind a project. When walking around Shoshone National Park, it's very common to stop and realize how beautiful the environment is and appreciate the game's color palette, particularly the beautiful and jaw-dropping yellow and orange hues of mid-afternoon. Additionally, there is a camera that allows players to take pictures of interesting landmarks or whatever strikes their attention, which could be as simple as a rock in just the right location. As a game, Firewatch can be categorized as a first-person adventure game where your main features are walking around and interacting with objects, such as collecting notes left by other rangers, the pulpy and fun back covers of the thrilling Neil Black book series, ropes to traverse cliffs, flashlights to light the darkness, and most often your radio connecting you to Delilah. When looking at objects, sometimes you can call up Delilah to comment on it, which can lead to conversations. Some may argue that this isn't very engaging to them and shouldn't be categorized as a game because of it, and while that can be understandable, I think the lack of gameplay in areas such as combat or mechanically rewarding systems really make the core of the game's focus on Delilah and Henry's relationship that much more compelling. One of the game's strongest highlights is letting you personalize your experience as Henry. The game is about 4 hours long and features a variety of options that you can have input on a decision. They aren't affecting the plot and don't lead to an entirely new storyline, but rather allow small personal touches that let the player craft their own personal view of Henry. Obvious examples would be choices such as naming the fire that occurs partway through the game, or input on how Delilah draws Henry from her watchtower. But this amount of freedom also includes examples that aren't labeled. An example would be how you deal with the teenagers on the lake. No matter what, the end result will always be the same, but how you choose to interact with them can be different. If you wanted, you can pick up the beer cans they leave behind at their camp. Choose how you want to address them, either as politely and as understanding as possible, or as outright hostile as you please. Or, if you even wanted to, you can interact with their radio and throw it into the lake, if you've just had enough with their horrible taste in music. There are other scenarios where you don't even have to interact with the game in the way it intends you to. It's not a lot, but there are a few. These small options of choice allow you to craft your own versions of Henry and how his experiences and actions shape him. This is also highlighted in the most controversial aspect of the game, and that is its ending. At this current point, I'm going to be spoiling Firewatch's ending. If you want to go in completely blind, I would urge you to stop the video now. But if you're a bit curious, I would recommend staying, as I will be talking about why I think its ending is better than it can originally appear. Ultimately, it's your call. So Firewatch begins after Henry learns that his longtime girlfriend has been diagnosed with dementia. She is currently living in Australia with her parents, and Henry takes a job as a Firewatch to get away from reality for a bit. But as the days pass, trouble begins brewing at the park. The 2 teenagers at the lake go missing. Henry is stalked by a mysterious stranger who's been recording Henry and Delilah's conversations and has been tracking information about each of them. Paranoia begins to settle into the park, and the once beautiful landscape becomes a backdrop for Henry to question everything about the park, including who Delilah really is. The plot begins to make full speed towards its conclusion, which could have devastating and shocking revelations. But it doesn't. Everything seems to resolve itself. Each problem appears to have a logical and anticlimactic ending. The two teenagers ran away from home and got arrested in a completely other location. The mysterious man is a former park ranger who lost his son in a tragic climbing accident and has been keeping eyes on Henry and Delilah not for sinister reasons to punish them, just to make sure he doesn't have to be held accountable. There are many arguments that the ending isn't great because there's no grand payoff to the mysteries, and everything seems to solve itself. And if I'm being honest, I had the same opinion at first, only to view it differently as time went on and begin to really appreciate it. Henry took this job as an escape from his relationship and to reevaluate what he wants in his life. The mysteries that arise are pressing at first, but when looking at them from the whole picture, they act almost as distractions for Henry. If the plot did decide to have these mysteries contain big payoffs, it would drastically change the way we view Henry. His reasons for becoming a Firewatch is at the core of this story, an opportunity to leave the hardships of your present life behind for moments of reflection and escape. Having these mysteries be uneventful conclusions illustrates the idea that life will move on and you eventually have to come back home. There is no grand action that will change your life for its entirety when away. And because of that, it really made me appreciate the ending way more than if Henry had a dramatic confrontation with the mysterious stranger, or if he single-handedly saved the teenagers from a forest fire or something. The experience of Firewatch left me with an understanding to enjoy every moment as much as I can, from reading and interacting with objects to just staring at my environment and enjoying the simple bliss of what's in front of me, and especially how life will always still be going on. It's not wrong to reflect and take a break from it, but at the end of the day, you have something to go back home to, and no matter how difficult or intimidating that may be, you can handle it. At the game's conclusion, my version of Henry decided while he was afraid, he was ultimately willing to try again with his girlfriend, even if she wouldn't remember him, because she is far too important to just let go of without trying his best to make it work. And as someone who's afraid to put himself out there on a site with millions of high quality and professional content creators, that really struck a chord with me. If this sounds like something that's up your alley, give it a shot. Who knows, maybe you'll craft a version of Henry that teaches you something about yourself in a different way. Or maybe it'll just act as a virtual step back from your own life. I mean, after all, just look at that view.